So, are you one of the millions of Windows users feeling kind of stuck? You're caught between an old OS that's about to lose support and a new one that your perfectly good computer can't even run. You've probably asked yourself, is there a way out? Well, today we're taking a hard look at what might just be the most popular exit ramp out there, Zorin OS. We're starting with this quote because it just nails the shift that's happening right now. This isn't some obscure thing just for Linux nerds anymore. We're talking about everyday people, your neighbors, maybe even your parents. People who just want their computer to work are starting to see Zorin OS as a real, serious option. And that's the big question, isn't it? I mean, it sounds almost too good to be true. Can a totally free, community-driven operating system really just step in and do everything you rely on Windows for, from your job to your games, all without a massive headache? Well, that's what we're here to find out. All right, so first, let's get the context right. This is the hard deadline that's forcing everyone's hand. After this date, boom, no more security fixes for Windows 10, no more tech support for Microsoft. It leaves users with a tough choice. Upgrade your whole life, buy a brand new PC, or find another way. And here's the other kicker. Even if you want to upgrade to Windows 11, you might not be able to. These really strict new requirements, like something called TPM 2.0, mean that tons of perfectly functional computers, some just a few years old, are being told they're obsolete. It's this moment of mass frustration that has blown the door wide open for alternatives. And this number, well, it shows this isn't some tiny underground movement. In the time since that Windows 10 end-of-life announcement, Zorin OS has seen its downloads just surge past 3.3 million. That is a lot of people actively looking for that escape route. So this is where Zorin OS positions itself as that managed exit ramp. It's not just another flavor of Linux, it's an entire operating system built from the ground up to catch users who are leaving Windows and, make their landing as soft as possible. So what's the big promise here? Well, it's actually pretty simple, and it hits every single sore spot for a frustrated Windows user. First, it promises a familiar desktop, so you're not totally lost. Second, it can run on hardware up to 15 years old. Yeah, 15. Saving your old PC from a landfill. Third, it respects your privacy by not tracking you. And of course, the big one. The main version is completely, totally free. Okay, let's be real. This is often the biggest hurdle, right? People just don't want to learn a whole new way of using their computer. And Zorin's biggest claim to fame is that they've cracked this code, creating an experience that feels natural from the second you log in, especially if you're coming from Windows. And here's exactly how they do it. This little thing called the Zorin Appearance tool. It's the absolute star of the show. With a single click, I'm not kidding, you can change the entire desktop layout, the start menu, the taskbar, everything, to look and feel almost identical to the version of Windows you already know. This one feature is a total game changer for reducing that learning curve. And look, this isn't just marketing hype. It's backed up by actual user data. According to real-world reviews on G2, Zorin OS actually beats Windows 11 on ease of use. Now, Windows might be a little easier to set up and has slightly better official support, but for the day-to-day experience, users are saying Zorin is friendlier. Okay, a pretty interface is great and all, but it's totally useless if you can't run the software you need. This is the ultimate test for any Windows alternative. Can it handle your applications and, for a lot of us, your games? The magic that tries to make this happen is a built-in technology called Windows App Support. The easiest way to think of it is like a universal translator. It takes the language that a Windows program speaks and translates it, in real time, into a language that Linux understands. This is what lets a lot of those familiar .exe files run directly in Zorin. And you know what? For many common applications, it works like a charm. Take Photoscape, for example. It's a popular little photo editor. You just download the standard windows.exe file, you double-click it, and it installs and runs just like you'd expect on Windows. For a lot of people, this is all they'll ever need. But, and this is a big but, that translation isn't always perfect. The problem comes in when you have more complex software, especially programs that need deep, direct access to your computer's hardware, like the USB tool Rufus. The compatibility layer can get in the way, so the app might launch, but it won't be able to actually see your USB drive, which makes it pretty much useless. Now for gaming, it's kind of the same story, some amazing progress, but also some really hard walls. Thanks to a tool from Valve called Proton, a huge number of games on Steam work incredibly well. But here's the deal breaker. really invasive kernel-level anti-cheat software. This means many of the biggest competitive online games, we're talking Fortnite, Call of Duty, Roblox, they simply will not run on Linux, period. All right, let's switch gears and talk about one of the biggest reasons people want to leave Windows in the first place: privacy. And in this area, the difference between the two is, well, it's less of a gray area and more of a total night and day comparison. Honestly, this comment from a Reddit user just says it all. For people who are used to Windows and its massive data collection, worrying about Zorin's approach to privacy is kind of like worrying about a puddle after you've been swimming in the ocean. So let's break it down. Windows telemetry collects a ton of detailed data on your hardware and how you use your apps, and it's really hard to turn off completely. Zorin, on the other hand, has something they call a census, which collects basic anonymous system stats just to help them with development. But here's the key difference. It is completely optional. You opt out during install. And if you change your mind later, you can uninstall it with a single command. The control is completely in your hands. Okay, we've looked at the feel, the app situation, the privacy, so let's put it all together. When it all comes down to it, who should actually think about taking this exit ramp? And this user data, it paints a really clear picture of who's using what right now. Zorin's user base is overwhelmingly made up of individuals and small businesses. Windows, on the other hand, has this massive footprint in bigger companies, where things like corporate management tools are just non-negotiable. So, Zorin OS is probably your perfect exit ramp if this sounds like you. You're trying to save an older PC from the scrap heap, you really care about privacy and controlling your own data, most of what you do is in a web browser anyway, or you're just plain sick and tired of forced updates and ads baked into your operating system. If that's you, Zorin is basically tailor-made for you. However, and this is a big however, you should probably stay on the Windows highway if any of these hit home. If your job depends on professional software like the Adobe Suite, if you're a serious competitive gamer playing those anti-cheat titles, or if you have to plug into a corporate Microsoft network for work, well, making the switch could be way more trouble than it's worth. And that really brings us to our final thought here. The rise of a really polished, user-friendly alternative like Zorin OS raises a fascinating question. Maybe the goal isn't for one operating system to win. Maybe it's just about us, the users, finally having a real, meaningful choice about how we use our own computers. The real question is, which road will you take?